Quick tip for local business owners. If your website isn't updated for AI overviews, you're about to lose visibility in a way ads can't fix. Search is changing. People aren't scrolling anymore. They're getting one AI generated answer. And the second your competitor's website is more AI ready than yours, they become the recommendation, even if you've been the trusted business for years. The fix is simple, but it has to be done correctly. Your site needs the right structure, clear messaging, and AI readable content so Google can confidently pull you as the answer. If you want us to make your website AI overview ready, email support@themediainsider.co. That's support@themediainsider.co. If you've ever walked into Kingfisher Bookstore and felt immediately welcomed, challenged, entertained, or gently told what you should be reading, there's a good chance you've met Meg Olson. Meg is the owner of Kingfisher Bookstore in Coupeville, and she is funny, outspoken, wildly knowledgeable, and absolutely unafraid to jump in and help, whether that means finding the perfect book, rallying behind a cause, or showing up for her community when it counts. Kingfisher isn't just a bookstore, it's a place for ideas, conversations, author events, and the occasional opinion, and Meg has been at the center of it all. She's helped shape the literary life of Whidbey Island while proving that an independent bookstore can be smart, bold, welcoming, and deeply human all at the same time. Today we're talking about books, business, community, and what it really takes to run an independent bookstore with heart, humor, and a very strong point of view. If you have been listening to me for a while, you know I adored Meg. She is my kind of human. Let's chat. Hi, Meg.
Hi, Maggie. Welcome to Kingfisher.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you agreeing to this interview. I've been dying to interview you. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm glad you're here.
Yes, and we have something in common, if you don't mind me saying, but we both have the birth names of Margaret.
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do. Aren't we special? Okay, so let's start at the beginning. How did Kingfisher Bookstore come into your life, and how did you realize that it was going to be, more than just a bookstore? Because it is more than just a bookstore.
To begin with, Kingfisher Bookstore coming into our lives was very much a happy accident. My husband was getting ready to retire as a captain with Royal Caribbean.
Oh.
So he was going to, as they call it, float ashore. The kids had left home. We were in an interesting transition, and we were looking for a business we could run together, or I could run rather than I was working in media and publishing. Mm-hmm. So something that would bring us a little bit more together. And we had come to Coupeville because there was something we could possibly run as an inn or a vacation property here. Mm-hmm. And we were staying in Coupeville. It was the night of the greening of Coupeville. Oh. So here I was tired from work. Brad had picked me up. We were walking down Front Street. Santa Claus went by on the fire truck, and there were children everywhere. And I just had bells in my head.
You were smitten.
I was smitten. And there on the side of this building was an old for sale sign that was held on with tar. Brad looked at me. We looked at this place. And it was all dark. And he looked at me. He said, "You could do bookstore." I said, "Sure could do bookstore." And we called the real estate agent. Carl King, who was the former owner, said to us the next day, "I've had this place on the market since the Reagan administration." Carl was just waiting for the right buyer, and we were waiting for the right opportunity for our next step. So Carl definitely quizzed me when it came to my abilities to be an adequate bookseller. Yeah. He would, creep up behind me. "Who wrote Catcher in the Rye?" Salinger. So he wanted to make sure that, I think one of the reasons it had been on the market since the Reagan administration was that even though he didn't say so, he wanted to make sure that the building and the business remained a bookstore. Oh. And I think he very much wanted it to remain Kingfisher, and what could be a better name.
That's a great name.
That's how we sort of stumbled onto it. And then it took some conversations and some thinking to take Kingfisher from where it was then, which was
Right.
pretty tired.
Yeah.
There was some plywood in one of the windows.
Oh.
The other window was
Yeah.
rented out to Elkhorn Antiques across the street, and we've had some wonderful partners. Jared Torres is the builder who helped us stabilize this building at a cost that bookstores are not huge money makers.
Is this considered a historic building?
It is.
Okay.
It is a historic building. We've been able to take advantage of some wonderful grants.
Mm-hmm.
We've redone all the old windows. We've maintained the original windows. It's a balloon built building, so taking the old siding off, it was rotten. To replace it would have possibly had some structural issues. So we worked with the Department of Historic Preservation at the state to get permission to sheet the building, and we had the siding milled to match the old siding. So the historic nature of the building is very much part of what the business is even. I take kids on tours. I have third graders who come in a little phalanx, and I take them on tours of the store to talk about the history of the building. We have an outhouse on the back balcony. And all the kids go out to look at the historical toilet, and they look down the hole onto the beach, and every one of them says, "Ew!"
Yeah.
And then some of the marks on the floor, you can see the line where the old lunch counter was. You can see where one of the former owners, this building used to be a confectionery, so he sold candy and cigars. And you can see where cigars have been dropped around a stool on the floor. You can see where the wash bucket was because it's stained black from seawater. They used to pull the seawater to wash the lunch dishes from one end of the balcony, and they used to use the restroom at the other end of the balcony.
So you just really answered my questions about making this also a sense of place, and that it's maintained here. Especially since it's a historical building and you maintained it that way. But one of the things you said at the beginning is we came to Coupeville. So where did you come from?
We had lived for almost 30 years at that point in Point Roberts, Washington, which is 5 square miles of America stuck onto the bottom of Canada. And our kids, both of our children are adopted from the foster system.
Right.
And they had been going back and forth to Blaine on the bus, crossing the border into Canada.
I only know about this place because of CBS Sunday Morning did a thing on it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so once they hit their teenage years, the kids needed more services. They needed to be closer to their school. They needed to be off the rock. Yeah. So when we left Point Roberts and moved to Blaine, which was where my office was, we had every intention of going back to Point Roberts until the first time that I went to Costco and was able to buy lemons and a steak and take it home. And I'm like, whoa,
Costco
what
changed
kind
everything.
of crazy freedom is this? I can buy plants anywhere I want to take them home.
Yeah.
And so when it was time for another transition, we were very intentionally looking for a small town. I am a small town girl, even though I grew up in San Francisco. But my family also spent a good chunk of my childhood in a very small town in the mountains, a farming town in the mountains in southern France. And so there's some, I might be a city girl on paper, but there's a lot of small town in my bones. And both Brad and I knew we wanted to be in a small town that had a small sense of community. And just like in Point Roberts, now in Coupeville, I've seen kids that first started coming to Sunday story time when they were babes in arms. And now they're telling me that they're too grown up for Sunday story time. And that they don't like books with pictures. And so, and in Point Roberts, I worked for the local newspaper. There were kids who didn't know that Meg was my name. They thought Meg Olson was just one name, and that was my identity. I took pictures of them in kindergarten, and I interviewed them when they graduated from high school. There's a sense of continuity with that feeling of community connection that is, to me, one of the bright stars in a person's life is their place in their community. And that's very much part of why we came to Coupeville and why Kingfisher is what it is. and why we've developed the culture for our business and our store that it has, which is very inclusive and a place that families bring their children, but that the moms come they bring their children to Sunday story time, and at the end of the day they come to letter writing club and hang out with some grown-ups and write letters to their friends. It's a place where every part of the family can find their spot together and also apart.
Absolutely, absolutely. So this is an independent bookstore.
Yeah.
And, everybody has heard of the challenges over the decades of being able to continue to exist. So what are some of the challenges that you face?
I think we face some of the same challenges as any small business. Mm-hmm. And, they're somewhat mundane, finding the right staff member, cash flow in February, because we are the business is becoming less and less seasonal as our community, the Kingfisher community, grows beyond Coupeville. Like, we have customers who come once a month from Port Townsend and buy all their books and get back on the ferry and go home. So as our reach has grown a little bit, it's a little bit less seasonal, but there's no question on Front Street in Coupeville, we have our gravy months.
Yeah.
And needing to plan to make sure my staff, to maintain a good staff, you have to be good to them. And I have to offer people full-time jobs at a living wage.
Yeah.
And so being able to pay them year round, when our income is so variable, that's a challenge, but it's a challenge that all of my neighbors face as well. As far as challenges for independent bookstores in general, I share challenges with all of the members of the American Booksellers Association, even though we're all in very different places. Ideas of access to texts, challenges to texts in schools. We haven't had any here of note, but it's something that we are always vigilant about, and we want to ensure that people can read what they want to read, and that access to reading material and access to information isn't censored or impeded in any way. And I want to make sure that people who don't feel welcome in dialogues in other places feel welcome here. We have a sign in our window that says trans people belong here. And I've had a number of people walk into the store and say, thank you for that messaging, because it's important when you feel unwelcome in many places. If a business says you are welcome here, it's important. And we want marginalized communities to know that they have a home here as well. And we have some very conservative customers, and I want them to feel welcome as well, but with the understanding that they need to be welcoming themselves to be welcome. And so we special order some books that I'm a little eyebrow raisy about sometimes, but that's what they want to read. They get to read it. But when they come in the store, they also need to understand that their speech needs to be respectful. Their attitude needs to be respectful. You don't scoff. That's not okay. And so walking that line to keep everyone respectful of everyone else, with a big E, everyone, can be a tough one. And but it's definitely something we strive to do, because a community bookstore needs to be completely inclusive.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. So with that said, in a good way, what has surprised you the most about having a bookstore here in Coupeville? Or on Whidbey Island in general?
On Whidbey Island in general. I think, to be honest, on the outside, some of the things that have, on the outside isn't the right word, things that have surprised me in surprising me.
Surprised you in surprising
me. There are some of the things that people read, because the more we grow, initially the curation of the store was very much me. And so we have a huge natural history section. I have a master's in botany from the University of British Columbia, And I loved teaching while I was there. I taught native plant identification for a while as a graduate student. And so we have a big plant section. I love bird watching, big natural history section. But when we first started the store, we didn't have a romance section because I rolled my eyes.
Right.
But the more you're on the floor, the more you're talking to people, the more that sense of inclusivity has to extend to your curation. And the fact of the matter is, there are a lot of romance readers out there. And there are some things. I took a class on how to curate romance books at the Pacific Northwest Booksellers Association fall show, and had to learn different language and what makes it a romance instead of a love story. And so some of those things, we all read in our niche, in our trench, and you can't really, unless your store is very small, if you want to be a generalist bookstore, you can't curate only in your own little trench. Right. So I discovered that there is a great deal of interest in sex with dragons in books.
Oh my God.
We call it dragon porn. It's a thing. That's a surprise.
It is a surprise.
I mean,
nothing I would have ever thought of.
No, when I think romance, when I think Jane Austen, I don't think I'm in love with a snake. I don't think that.
Yeah.
So some of the books that people want and that people read, I just no way, that's a thing.
Yeah.
Okie dokie, let's find that.
Yeah.
And so
now I'm interested.
Yep, there you go. There's some stuff out there. I've definitely been very surprised by some of the niches that have popped up, and I'm lucky that I have staff members who know all about certain things that I am not going to learn about.
Yeah.
Horror.
Yes.
Halloween. These are two other things. I had no idea there was such a culture around Halloween. To me, it's like I put on a hat, I hand out candy. But some people want it to be Halloween all year. And they're very excited about that. And I have 2 staff members who are part of the cult of Halloween. And that's great because I have these people who can say, look, Meg, this is how this has got to be. I will say, all right, let's go there.
Yeah, I can be a little bit of a snob about that too, because I will look at a book and I say, if I'm going to pay $27.99 for this book, it has to be an amazing writer. The book has to be so thick, all that kind of stuff. And so when girlfriends have recommended romance stuff, I don't want to pay for it. I don't want to pay for it, and so that's so snobby, I know. And if it sits somewhere on sale, I'll pay for it.
There you go.
If I'm going to pay a lot of money, it's going to be from just someone that's fabulous and who I think is so intellectual. That's totally snobby and wrong. However, that's just how my mind works. When I buy books, when I get books, even my Audible account, it's $14.99 a month, and I will only pick books that are pricey. If I see that it's on sale for $7.99, I will just buy it, or I come and get the print and buy it because it's cheaper.
You just said the word Audible account, so I'm going to pitch something at you right now. Libro FM is an alternative to Audible. And if you buy your audiobooks from Libro FM, you could choose the Kingfisher Bookstore as your bookstore.
I'll do that.
And we will get some of the funds. Yeah. Or if you happen to be from Bainbridge Island, you can choose Eagle Harbor Books as your bookstore, and they'll get some of the funds. So you're supporting indie bookstores by buying your audiobooks.
And this is awesome
from Libro.
Because one of the discussions my husband and I have had is really backing off Amazon, and Amazon owns Audible.
Yes.
And I go, and my husband didn't read before Audible. Now it's every week a new book. So at least he's, listening to something. I read all the time, books on paper. And I got a library card so I could do the libraries, but also you have to wait for the books, to be supportive of the library. So this is perfect. So listener, it's Libro, libro.fm/Kingfisher Bookstore. So go check that out. Well, that's awesome. Thank you. So now you know the little snotty side of me, and
I have the same snotty side.
Yeah,
people say, "Oh no, this person has written like 7 New York Times bestsellers." Oh yeah, really?
Yeah,
for real? Okay. Yet the bestseller list is a constant. I get our regional booksellers association sends me the regional bestsellers list every week. and I look at the New York Times bestsellers list every week. New York Times doesn't really apply very well to this coast. The LA Times is a little bit better. But I will look at this, and I try and have the books that are on the bestseller list in my store with limits. There's some, like the tell-all memoir of a televangelist from Mobile, Alabama. Just I'm not going to be able to sell it, so I won't bring that in. But because I try and represent all reading interests, and if especially the PNBA bestseller list. If a bunch of people in my region are reading a book and it's not on my radar, that puts it on my radar and I'll bring it in. But I'm forever surprised by how some titles move. Sometimes in a shaking my head kind of way, sometimes in a you go kind of way. You know, titles that I thought would be sort of niche, very Pacific Northwest, very maybe liberal, very artsy, end up taking off. The Correspondent is one of them. It was a real slow seller to begin with. Just sort of hung
bring
out
that up. It
there.
was a slow burn, and boom.
I am hopeful because I'm a huge fan of writing letters. That was the inspiration for our sister store, our baby sister across the street, which is Kingfisher Arts and Letters. And that's also why we started the letter writing club, which we have first Sunday of every month upstairs in our book spa, which is the newest thing we've just started. So the Correspondent, I think, is the success of that book is in part because people are trying to return to an analog way of living in as many ways as they can. And there's a lot of interest in writing letters. During our letter writing club, we have young women in their 30s, who are writing letters to their children because, and not to save for when you're 50, to give to you
right now,
so that their children can enjoy and grow up with that sense of slow dialogue that you get from written correspondence. And many of my favorite books are about the relationships that are built through writing letters to one another, which is it's a special dialogue that you can't reproduce with any other medium.
So here's my correspondent story. So first of all, my father, he's 89 years old yesterday, and he at least once a year, since we became adults, his 5 children, has written a letter that we call an epistle.
Very nice.
Yes. And he was I call it a bivocational minister growing up. So we were never the pastor kids. We were just the ones up there with my dad working and helping all the time. And it wasn't until I was in college that he did it full time. So we called it an epistle because it sounded more spiritual, because most of what he wrote was spiritual advice. But he constantly has been about his entire life about being grateful and always saying by the grace of God, ... And so a lot of the rest of his letters were about being grateful. That being said, I read this book, and I used to think that I was going to be a writer when I was in high school. And I tested high for tech and business. And my dad was like, you got to do that in college, not writing. You'll never make any money. So that's what I did. And so I've gotten back to writing. And from that book, what I've started doing, to your point with your letter writing club, is I have a 5-year-old granddaughter. And for Christmas, I gave her a writing box so she and I could write each other back and forth. And I got all the stationery from your other store.
Very nice.
Yes, and her little, I came over here, and remember I had come over here, if you remember, during the holidays, because I wanted a pack of pencils that weren't big.
Right.
Yeah, and went in her little writing box.
Right.
And so it was so nice at Christmas because she was so excited about it. And she literally, the very next day after Christmas, my son texted me and said, first letter in the box.
Very nice.
Yes, so absolutely analog. You know, I actually made myself a list at the first of the year of what analog things I could do to, try to, because I've been on a computer since 1986. I've had both of my hands operated on because I just overuse and things, with my hands. So and now everybody's handwriting is awful. My handwriting is so awful.
I actually practice. That's one
Yes.
of, I have these careful little things I like to do in the evening.
Yeah.
I practice language. I was learning, I spoke in Spanish since I was a child, French and Spanish, but my Spanish is tremendously rusty. So
Yeah.
I would have my Spanish lesson in the evening. We're getting ready for a trip to Vietnam. So now I have a Vietnamese lesson in the evening. Okay. And then I have my handwriting lesson, and I practice a certain letter every day. And then I write. I am not doing cursive Vietnamese, but I write in Spanish to practice my handwriting. It's a very centering exercise.
It is. It is. I mean, I've literally had to practice when I'm writing my granddaughter first, so I won't make a mistake on the nice paper. Yeah. One of the things that I would say about you is you're a real community connector. So how would you say that your store here helps provide that for you, being a community connector?
I think it provides it for me, but it provides it for others. And one of the most touching things that I've ever received was 2 Christmases ago, I think now. I received a letter from a woman who had moved here with her family from Taos, New Mexico. And it wasn't only a new community for her children, it was a new environment. Right. The desert was gone. The ocean was here. And she thanked us for providing with our Sunday story time. We have story time every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. And there are families that come, many families that come every week. And she said in her letter, she thanked us for providing this home for her and her girls in Coupeville, that it was Sunday story time where she met her new friends in her new community, where her girls not only connected to new kids their age, but had people. We are their people. This is a place that feels like home to them. We have a number of older residents of Coupeville who live alone and who come into the store every single day. Wow. Either they walk their dogs and they come in and they say it's because the dog needs a cookie. Yeah. But mostly they come to connect. They come to check in. Yeah. We have one of our older customers who lost her dog. Her dog died, and then she was coming in 2 or 3 times a day to say how much she missed Titus and to order some different books and to ask whether we thought she should get another dog or she was too old. And so that idea is that we are a home for readers, but we are also a home for community. And you don't necessarily need to be a reader to feel at home here. Right. We have our green chair by the front door. There are some people who on their walks every day, they come in, they sit in the green chair, they read whatever book is in front of them, they put the book back, pick it up, they walk on.
Like a library.
Yeah, they have never bought a book here, ever, and never will. But we're part of their world, and that's important. And frequently when we bring a new staff member on board, we talk about that they need to be treated with respect by everyone who walks in the door, and that they need to treat everyone who walks in the door with respect. Whether they're about to buy something or whether they just got out of jail and are waiting for the bus. Yeah. And it still needs to be okay, even if they smell. That's all right. Yeah. And that kind of place of, because we talked about inclusivity, that kind of place of welcome. Yeah. And I know for the community, a lot of community members, this is, a place you go to connect. And that's what we want to be about. Bookstores are about connection.
Yeah, they are. So you were talking about the LA Times and the New York Times. So in that the bookstore is a reflection of you mostly. So what is your secret to curating? I know that you have these lists and you decide, but do you have some type of also way based on your personality, how you curate books for the store?
I think it definitely starts with me. Mm-hmm. I think that even someone who wants to read about a young lady who has an intimate relationship with a reptile, that's okay. But it needs to be a good book about the intimate relationship with the reptile. And there are some bad ones. And so I do take the time to crack these babies open and go, oh, this is just awful. No. And I won't buy it. Yeah. So there are good books about anything, and there are bad books about anything. And so, and it's also, so there's what I like. That's why we have a strong natural history section. We have a great cookbook section. We have a maritime section. Many stores don't, but we have.
We're on the ocean.
We're on the ocean. My husband spent his entire career as a merchant sailor. We carry the Gales of November. He couldn't finish it because he cried, because he worked on those, the Great Lake, or carriers, and it was too hard for him. So that section, his maritime books are on top, and they say "Not for sale, property of Captain Brad Olson." So everybody who works here is part of the curation. Felix, who is my main man, Felix likes horror. So there are books in the mystery and thriller section that he's kind enough to say to me, no, you may not, because they will scare the heck out of me. I have no tolerance for horror. He loves it. And so I have staff members, the minute I have someone in my crew that I trust, and if you work for me, I trust you, and I trust them, and I trust their passion. If someone really loves something, I'll make a section for it if I need to. Because that means they can sell it. We don't want a bunch of books in here that none of us like. But if someone loves something, we'll make room for it. I mean, there are limits. Dan Christians, another one of our booksellers, spent most of his adult life as a sales rep for W.W. Norton. And he will read anything, I think, by an Irish author. And if Dan had his way, we would have a fiction by Irish authors section. It might even be a fiction by Irish authors with beards section. No, then Banville couldn't be in it. No, just a fiction by old Irish guys section. And so I limit people to make sure we do have a good balance and nobody gets carried away. But curation at Kingfisher is very much a team effort. And then also, there are our customers. I would say I routinely bring in a book because someone special orders it, and I'll read about it, and then it'll come in, and I'll peek in it a little bit, and I'll say, hey, that's a great book. Because I know that customer is going to read that book, love it, talk to their neighbors. Chances are one of those neighbors will ask me to bring it in. So our customers, especially our regular customers, inform a lot of our choices. And then we also, someone asked me, how do you curate your store? I gave a talk at the library less than a year after I had opened the store. And I cried because I said some of the people who inform my curation are no longer alive because when they die, I've gotten their estate. Their family doesn't want their books, and they bring me. In the case of Sylvia Turkington, who lived on Lovejoy Point, I went to her estate sale and ended up acquiring all of the books. I know more about Sylvia than I know about some people who are alive, and I see every day. Because of her books. Books say such a tremendous amount about a person. And through Sylvia, I developed an appreciation for American classical craft. She did stump work embroidery. And so I started looking into books about it. It takes you down a whole other, every person that we connect with through books and through our shared interests like that invites us into another world. And I make sure to never close those doors. And every time someone opens a door to their imagination for me, I walk right through. And so Sylvia Turkington has informed a number of books in my gardening section. She loved her garden. And she had some tremendous classical gardening texts that we have in our gardening section, thanks to Sylvia.
Now I'm going to have to go over there and look. So you are known for supporting local and regional authors. Why has that always mattered to you?
I think that if a community is going to be able to support a local bookstore, it needs to be, I don't like using the word literary because it can be perceived as snobby, but that is what I mean. It needs to be able to support a literary community. People need to care about the written word, and they need to communicate with each other through the written word, because bookstores are a house of writing.
That's right.
And local writers are an important part of that. I think a good way to sort of encapsulate that importance is during the Arts and Crafts Festival, we have a tent out on Front Street, and we don't have books in our tent for sale. We have people. And I tell them, get out there, bust out your inner carny, my little hole in the wall authors, get out there.
Yeah.
And they talk to one another. They connect with the public. They talk about their books. They talk about their experiences, what life experience brought them to write this. Some of them are retired, and like you, they'll say, I wanted to write my whole life, but I had a career as fill in the blanks, but I met so many interesting people, and I like to bring those characters out in what I write. And it makes writing real to people when they can meet the people who write the books.
Right.
And especially when those people are their neighbors and live in their communities.
Right.
It makes writing real to them, and it makes the experience of reading different. And then their children, Eldridge Black, the famous Derek Sutton, we were talking about him, the excitement the kids have to meet someone who wrote their favorite book and who his messaging is consistent and always there. You can write a book too. What is your story? What do you want to write? It liberates kids to accept that the stories they tell themselves are things to be shared, and that they have the skills to share them, and that the things that come out of their imagination are good things. And that kind of messaging, you can't get that any other way.
No, not at all.
And so we have our local writers table, but especially I like to have events with local authors to allow those authors to connect to community.
So talking about events, which you have, and talking about stories, do you have a story or do you have an event in your history of here that you have just said to yourself when it's over, this is why I do this?
Yes. Kim Fay is an author who her first book was Love and Saffron. Her second book was Kate and Frida. And they are epistolary novels. And they are, so an epistolary novel is letters back and forth between two people. And Kim came to talk about Love and Saffron. And she is a lifelong friend of a book rep we work with frequently. So Curtis facilitated that. And then there's a dish in the book, actually on the cover of the book, that is saffron mussels that she talks about in the book. And so Front Street Grill next door makes saffron cream mussels. So we had a special in collaboration with Sean at Front Street Grill that if you bought a copy of this book, you got a discount for your saffron mussels next door. So we had the author event with her. We had those pre-sales leading up to it. It was well attended. A lot of people then went next door and had saffron mussels and talked about the book and talked about their friendships that had been supported over decades of not seeing each other through letter writing. And it was everything all sort of tied up in this with this beautiful bow on top that matters to Kingfisher. Good writing, letter writing, a community, collaborating with our neighbors, the sense of togetherness on Front Street. We are a marvelous little retail community. And so that was delightful. And it really was, it was a small event. Our events stay small. We lived upstairs. When we first bought the building, we lived upstairs for 8 years. Yeah, that's right. 8 years. We've bought a house and we've turned The big room, which was our living room, used to be the factory that made the confections for the confectionery. We've turned that into a bit of an office space, but also we call it the salon.
Yeah, the salon.
And we've had Island Shakespeare has had a performance up there. We have our letter writing club and our book club meet up there.
Okay.
We've had some wonderful author events
Yeah.
up there. It can handle about 30 people. Kira Madden is coming in March for the release of her book Whidbey, which is quite a read.
I got my RSVP for that.
There you go.
Yeah.
And it's a wonderful, intimate space, and it's perfect for the kind of events Kingfisher likes to have that feel like you're in someone's living room. When people come into the store, we want it to feel like you've just walked into someone's library. Take a look at what they read. Check out their books.
Yeah.
And then for the space upstairs, we want it really to feel intimate, like a living room.
Yeah.
Everything about us is personal. It's one-on-one. Even in a group of 35, it's personal. And we also have our book spa in that space, which is a new thing we just launched.
I saw that. I read about that.
Yeah. The book spa is for you pay a certain amount of money, and then you sit up there. We'll bring you tea and cookies and it's a nice little treat, and we'll talk to a bookseller for 20 minutes, and we'll bring you a giant tower of books you would like, a curated book stack for you. And then you get, for the amount you pay for the book spa, a gift card for, I think, 75% of what you've paid to buy what books you like downstairs. So it's a personalized, curated book buying experience.
Well, that's very creative. Yeah, that's very creative. So, not to change the subject from all that fun part, but on the business side of Kingfisher, what are some of the things that you have to do day to day that a lot of people wouldn't realize about a bookstore?
Volume. Cardboard. I think people, a good example is that Brad, when we bought the business, Brad bought a model ship. And he thought he was going to sit up at the point of sale and chat about books with people occasionally and work on his model ship. He has yet to open the box.
Oh, no.
For the model ship. It's still downstairs in the storage because the amount of physical, and when I hire people, I say, eat your Wheaties in the morning because this is a physically challenging job. We take a full vehicle full of cardboard twice a week to the dump.
Yeah.
We get probably 50 to 100 boxes of goods every week that we need to receive, shelve, store, break down the cardboard, put it out there, take it to the dump.
Put it in your system.
Put it in your system. We recently did inventory 2 days, counting everything in both stores. And books are heavy.
Yeah.
Book selling is not sit there and sip on your tea, quiet kind of thing. It's a hit the ground running kind of thing. And we have had 2 employees who, after working for us for, I give people 30 days. Let's see if the reality and the fantasy and the reality line up for you. Because everybody, I'd love to work in a bookstore. How many pounds can you lift? Deadlift.
Yeah.
How flexible are you? A lot of our storage is ground level. Can you get down on the ground? If not, it's going to be real hard.
Yeah.
That people don't expect that.
Yeah. So when did you come? What year did you come to Coupeville?
2018.
2018. Okay.
We first clapped eyes on this building in December 2017.
Okay.
And we sealed the deal in 2018.
So in that amount of time, I mean, it's not a super duper long time, but have you seen Coupeville or Whidbey Island as a whole change?
Coupeville, Front
we went
Street.
through COVID.
Yes.
Too.
COVID. I lucked out really with COVID in that we changed our point of sale inventory management system. We went live with Book Manager, which is the name of the program, 5 days before the COVID closure. And it allowed me to have my whole catalog online on the website. Wow. And if it hadn't been for Book Manager, we would be done.
Yeah.
I also was able to take advantage of grants and COVID funding that I know some bookstores that closed during COVID just didn't have the expertise or the bandwidth to do that. So that was helpful. But Front Street has changed a lot since we got here. There's been building owners have reinvested a lot.
Yeah.
My neighbors next door, Vaughn and Barbara,
really nice.
who bought the cash store, have invested a tremendous amount. Other building owners have as well. Business owners have.
Yeah.
John is now the sole owner at Front Street Grill. There's some really dedicated people down here who...
Yeah, because this street in pictures all over the state of Washington is very iconic.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know.
And we get cranky as all heck. I know Vaughn and Barbara do too. There are a lot of iconic pictures taken from the wharf of the backside of Front Street that are our buildings before we worked on them. Yeah. And it's like, hey, they need to take a new picture.
Yeah.
That building looks shabby. My building looks sharp. Come on now, people. Take another picture.
Yeah.
But also Front Street has gotten busier.
Yeah.
There are... the spa is vacant right now. That's a very difficult space for somebody to move into. Though I've heard rumors it might be an arcade. I don't know. But people are hungry to find retail space on Front Street. I have folks that I know just from the industry asking me frequently, do you know if something's coming up, if something's coming up for lease, give me a call. I'd love to be down there. It's a busy little retail center. It's a historic street. There is more since COVID. There's more interest in regional tourism. People aren't going to, I think people started to travel domestically during COVID. That's all you could do. It was during COVID that a lot of people discovered things in their backyard that they had ignored before. And Whidbey Island is one of them.
Yeah.
And a number of families that came and stayed during COVID and then went back to their lives. Yeah. They come a couple times a year now. They come to our store. They come to Coupeville. It was a strange sort of spin-off from COVID that people discovered things in their backyard they had ignored up until then. They were getting on a plane and flying to Hawaii or to Paris.
Yeah.
And now they save their money and they come to Whidbey. I'm like, yeah, you keep doing that.
Yeah, keep doing
Keep
that.
it up.
Let's talk about the evolution of what people like to read. So obviously when you started, what have you seen evolve or change at all in what people are reading?
Romance.
Romance
has just completely blown up. It's amazing.
Wow.
I've seen a certain shift in nonfiction that still sort of makes me wonder. There were a lot of what I would call self-help books being published, and there are fewer now that are being published that we have what we call a lifestyle section downstairs that I struggle to find titles for. And because I write book reviews, and a lot of the titles that were coming across my desk in the early 2000s were self-help lifestyle books. And I think a lot of that has gone online. And people aren't looking for books about, finding your inner goddess. Except that, speaking of inner goddess, Coupeville is practical magic town.
Yeah.
And the witch population,
I know,
is an important demographic for this bookstore. We have, not a lot of bookstores have a witch section. We have a witch section. And at certain times of year, that witch section displaces the games and the crochet and takes over a whole wall.
Right.
And a lot of the people who look for things in the witch section are, I wouldn't say it's self-help, but it's books about connecting to the natural world.
Yes.
Connecting to others outside of mainstream norms.
Yeah.
Connecting to others not through your church.
Right.
Not through the local Elks Club.
Right.
But in ways that are more based on nature.
Right.
Sustainability. And a spirituality that has no boundaries.
Yeah. I learned when we moved back in 1998 to Portland from Houston and the culture I grew up in, if you were told anybody was a witch, they worshiped Satan. It wasn't until I moved to Portland and I met in a women's group someone who identified as a witch. And then she explained to me, and it was what you just said. She related to the natural world. She told me all the different things. And then she goes, and I don't worship Satan. It's just what we've been told based on people's ideas without any research at all. And so, and there's stores, that people who, there's one in Oak Harbor that I think I would say relates to the natural world more so than casting spells on people.
Yeah.
So that's very interesting. So romance. Wow. Maybe I should get into that. I just have never been a romance reader.
Me neither. And I argue with my booksellers about whether or not Jane Austen gets to go on the romance shelf. And it is. Yeah, I learned.
I would read that.
I learned in my class.
Yeah.
Last year that what makes it a romance is that it has a happy ending. Wuthering Heights, not a romance.
Right.
Pride and Prejudice, romance.
Okay.
See, we're always learning and growing at Kingfisher.
Yeah, but you know what? I've read all those books. I guess they are romances, but when you say romance, I just think of the paperbacks with some muscular man on the front of them.
I think a lot of what romance readers, and Kat, whom you've met, one of my booksellers, she is she and Courtney Jensen, who's one of our customers, who's the driving force between our book club, which is a romance book club, Romance Romantasy. And which is a word I never knew existed. Now I do. Romantasy. And one of the things that they've explained to me is that the rise in romance readership has come with a rise in a cultural, for men, a cultural alpha male presence, where women feel that, and many of them are involved with men who insist on being hard. Mm. Men don't cry, and what readers are looking for in romance is tenderness. Right. A lot of gender norms don't matter. Sexual orientation doesn't matter. All they're looking for is tenderness. Right. And I think our world has a lack of tenderness in so many ways. Oh, totally. That is a gap that needs to be filled, and these writers are filling it and filling it fast. Yeah.
And I was just sitting here thinking, like, one of the reasons why, I guess because of the time frame that I've grown up in my age and the whole thing, a lot of the romance books in the past to me has been women subjugating themselves to men.
Exactly.
And I just can't stand it. Because I'm mad at them. I'm not mad at the guy. I'm mad at them for going, you're an idiot.
Harlequin romance novels. Yes. I would get so angry at them when I was a teenager. You stupid, stupid girl. Yeah. Barbara Cartland. Oh, mad at them.
Exactly. We're kindred spirits about that. That is for sure. So let's talking about that. The digital fast-paced world. We were talking about analog and trying to get back to some things that are analog. And what you mentioned where we can read books at Kingfisher on the Libro account. So what is your opinion about the access to that? And has it really hurt you as far as like talking about the Audible in places like that? Is that what's hurt independent bookstores the most? Is those kinds of things?
I think one of the reasons independent bookstores, and they are having a resurgence, the Pacific Northwest Booksellers Association is not shrinking, it's growing.
Oh, good.
And one of the reasons for that is that there are two separate things happening. One of them is acquiring a book.
Right.
And the other thing is connecting with a book community. Mm-hmm. You can buy your book on Amazon. You can get your audiobook on Audible. All you're doing is getting a book. If you go to your indie bookstore or to your library, you're connecting with other readers. Mm-hmm. They're talking to you about books. Mm-hmm. You're sharing your experience of your book. Books, people sometimes think that reading and books are a solitary experience. That is not the case.
Mm-hmm.
There have been communities of readers since the beginning of history, or the beginning of reading, shall we say. And people who love story and people who love reading like to connect with one another and talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
It's, the same way that people who love cooking don't just like to stay at home and cook. They like to share their food with other people.
That's right.
And when you are a reader, you like to share your reading with other people.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of chit-chat that goes on in this store is tremendous. And often it's lovely. You'll see two people standing in front of the same section.
Mm-hmm.
One of them will pull out a book. The other one will say, "Oh, I just finished reading that. I absolutely loved it. Did you? It's been on my list. What did you love about it?" And there they go.
Yeah.
And then she'll say, "Have you read that one? I love that one. I read that one last year." And the two of them will spend a half an hour in this store talking, connecting.
Mm-hmm.
You can't get that on Amazon.
No, you cannot.
You just can't.
No.
And independent bookstores that prioritize their staff.
Mm-hmm.
My booksellers are my bread and butter. They're my gold.
Mm-hmm.
They connect with everyone who walks in the door. They have something to offer every single reader who comes in, whether they are 2 years old or 90 years old and really only read about World War II.
Yeah.
That's okay. We've got you covered. I don't care what you want to read about. We will find something for you, and my crew can do that.
Yeah.
And prioritizing booksellers is what differentiates us from Barnes & Noble.
Yeah.
It's what differentiates the indie bookstore experience from any other acquisition of reading material experience. And it's what makes people go to indie bookstores.
Yeah. Yeah.
And indie bookstores needed to reinvent themselves with Amazon. You can't sit behind your counter.
No.
You can't sit behind your counter with a book and let people walk in and out of your store. That's not what they're there for.
Right.
They're not here for paper in cardboard.
Right.
They're here to connect.
Yeah.
And indie bookstores that did that are thriving.
Yeah. So let's talk about the future in Kingfisher, in this community for years to come. What are you looking ahead to? Any changes or just continuing the thriving?
I think that one of my mantra, and I'm grateful to be surrounded by a group of more level-headed people who calm me down. My mantra is always, I need more room. I need more room. I need more room, more room. Let me have another building. I want another building. Our stationery store needs to grow. I would love to be able to move it into a larger space. I would like to have a bigger event space. Growing and growing and growing and growing would be my natural inclination. I have people who sit on me every once in a while, like, let's just calm down, Meg. You have a great thing going. Let's keep it thriving and stop trying to add things. We'd love to expand our events over at Kingfisher Arts and Letters, which has been a lovely addition.
Yes, it is.
We'd like to have more event space. One of the things I am going to focus on by not expanding is more community connections. We get tremendous amounts. I was talking to you about our volume of freight. We get so many damaged books that the publishers credit us for, and we need to either donate or destroy them. And we donate a lot of them to our local hospital. Okay. The hospital foundation comes and gets them, puts them in wards. So I want Kingfisher to send its fingers out into the community more and more. We just had a lovely collaboration with Sound Water Stewards. They had Sound Water Stewards University. We brought in the books. We brought in one of the authors who came here to do signings. We have events with those authors. Later on, the T. Kira Madden's book, Whidbey, we have, we're working on connections with Hedgebrook, which of course is a tremendous part of the literary life of Whidbey Island. Right. And I believe she was one of their authors. Yeah. So making further inroads into community further and further afield. Yeah. And then something else we're working on that I love is a few years ago we had sort of an independent bookstore day program with other island bookstores.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a couple of bookstores on the peninsula that sort of faded out because of staff changes. I think we have the muscle to get that rolling again. And there's some bookstores on the peninsula that want to connect.
Okay.
So making those regional connections between bookstores is tremendously valuable, and it lets all of our little communities daisy chain together. And that's something that we're excited about sort of stretching into a little bit.
Well, and I also, that's just part of what you were saying, is that this is here also for a primary, not even just responsibility, but what comes out of it is connection.
Yeah.
It's why the store matters. It's why the street matters. It's why you're talking about all these other bookstores, is the connection for the people who are interested in that. And then they bring in other people who become interested in that. There are some things that you do that I'm totally aware of. And then some things you mentioned in that, I'm like, how am I not aware of that? You know?
Get on our mailing list.
Yes.
I would encourage everybody, all you got to do is call up the store or walk in to get on our email list, because we have, and it's not that onerous, it's twice a month, sometimes once a week, no more than 4 times a month. We send out a little email newsletter, talks about new books that we have. It introduced the book spa, and that's been a great Valentine's gift that folks gave to their family members.
I realized, and just tell everybody out there, that I am on your email list now, but I followed you religiously on Instagram.
Oh, yeah.
But that doesn't mean everything you're doing you've put on Instagram. So if you're not a subscriber, you're missing things.
Yep. And following us on Instagram is great, though, because, of course, we have the Sunday Storytime video, but also all of our new releases. Kat does a great job of getting new material out there, and that's good. That's a good way to connect with what we're doing.
Are you ready for some fun rapid fire questions?
Yes.
All right. So are you a morning coffee or afternoon tea person?
Morning coffee.
Morning coffee. Me too. Book you've recommended the most this year? But it's just started. Let's say 2025.
25. Warm Hands of Ghosts.
Warm Hands of
Ghosts by Catherine Arden. I think it came out in 24, went to paper in 25. Catherine Arden is a bit more of a fantasy writer, which is a genre that I will dabble in, but it's not my home. That book is this amazing amalgam. There's a fantastical element that's a little bit more magical realism than it is fantasy. There are no elves, but there might be the devil roaming around in no man's land during World War I, or it might be a hallucination.
Okay.
It blends magical realism, fantasy, historical fiction, an unusual love story, and it's beautifully written. It's a really, really good book that ticks a lot of different boxes for different people.
So that brings me to the next one, which is, what's your favorite, fiction or nonfiction?
That is a tie.
Okay.
I would say fiction, except that I have always, I have this little bundle of books in my car next to my bed. I devour guidebooks, but like bird books. How to identify, what is that bird? What is that plant? What is that rock? What is that? Those kinds of books. How to identify, how to name the things in my world.
Okay.
My great-grandfather used to say to my mother, he liked to know the names of all the plants. And I love Linnaean nomenclature, which is the Latin names. And Uncle Dick was my great-grandfather, loved the Latin names for plants. And he said, you need to know these things so that when you speak to them, you can address them by their proper name. And I love that. And that lives deep in me.
Yeah.
And so in the nonfiction department, I read a lot of everything. I read a fair bit of nonfiction, probably more fiction, but I am passionate about books allowing me to describe my universe accurately.
That's great. So, what is one book that you think everyone should read once?
Wow. like read the whole book? This is two different questions.
Okay.
What is one book everyone should have?
Mm-hmm.
That book is The Joy of Cooking.
Yes, I agree. I do have
Everyone needs to have that
mm-hmm.
and to read large portions of it
mm-hmm.
to understand how to make your own darn food. I think everyone needs to have that book.
I got mine in an antique store.
Yeah, there you go. I don't think there is one book everyone should read.
I'm a huge fan of Barbara Kingsolver,
and
I think that everyone should read anything she writes.
There we go. I think often I tell people to read The Master and Margarita. I read The Master and Margarita every couple of years. It's one of my big, big, big favorite books. The reason that I think that it's by Mikhail Bulgakov, it was written when Russia was changing slowly to become the Soviet Union. It was after the revolution, and it combines tremendous imagery and humor and feats of storytelling, but also it's a bit of a cautionary tale because it's a cautionary tale about people getting too big for their britches. And that is a message that I think is timeless. Mm-hmm. Don't take yourself so darn seriously, and we'll all be fine. Yeah.
Well, being from Texas, I thought at first you said mastering the margarita.
Which everybody should do. And
That's
if
right.
you have the joy of cooking, you will be able to.
That's right. Okay, so what's your favorite spot in Coupeville or on the island to decompress?
Probably anything close to the water.
Yeah.
Really anything close to the water. Since my ankle injury, if you had asked me this prior to my accident, when I was walking a lot more, I would say Greenbank Farms. I would go with my dogs, let them romp around, take the trail in the back up through the woods. You can see both. You could see Saratoga Passage on one side and Admiralty Inlet on the other side. There's a gloriousness to that. I like Secret Beach a lot. We'll go down there. That's sort of since the injury where I need to go.
So tell people who don't know where Secret Beach is.
Secret Beach is on the east side of the island, and it's a good place to park and watch the sounders, the gray whales, as they are very, very daring little. There's a wonderful book, 12 Daring Grays, about what this is. Yeah. And the gray whales go into very shallow water, and they could get stuck there, but they don't because they're smart. And they scoop big holes, and they get the ghost shrimp out of the sediment, and then just before they're about to get beached, they go scooting on back out into deep water. Yeah. And we love watching that.
So the very first week I was here in May 2020, I'm in the backyard, and I hear what I think sounds like an elephant spraying water. And I live on the bluff just right across from here. And I go over there, and it's a whale. It's a gray whale. And that's what it was doing. And I was like, it is so shallow there. What in the world? Because I can just look down. I'm really high up. And then a little bit later, we saw another one. Must have been the female with the baby, doing the same thing because they sound like elephants at the zoo spraying water.
They do indeed.
Yeah, I was so excited to see that. I'm here the very first week of my life moving to Whidbey Island, and I get to see that. That was just amazing. It was very amazing. Okay, so are you a hardback or paperback person?
If it's going to stay on my shelf, hardback. If I'm going to carry it around in my miniature knapsack, paperback. Yeah. We get a lot of advanced reading copies of books, which we can read to decide whether or not to include them in the collection. And those are always paperback, but they're also cheap paper because they're not the finished copy of the book. And I love ARCs because of that, because they're very portable. You don't worry so much about hurting them and crumpling them. And I'm the kind of reader who likes to read all curled up with covers all over me like this. And if I have a fancy hardback, I have to sit up in a chair, put it on my lap. Whereas, so with a paperback, you can really just sort of crunch yourself in under your covers and put your pillow under your feet and cuddle up with your book.
So can you think of a book, and if you can, it's okay because you've read so many and you have so many in here that you thought was going to be bad, but it turned out to surprise you and you loved it?
Probably Warm Hands of Ghosts. I'm like, Catherine Arden, must I? That book's definitely surprised me. Also, there was a children's book called Bathe the Cat. And it's a silly children's book about a family with a bunch of kids and two dads getting ready for grandma to come. And I'm like, okay, this is cute and silly. How fun. But the cat is rearranging the letters on the fridge and messing up their to-do list. And the rhyming structure in it, rhyming in children's books is where it's at. The rhyming structure in that book is, and the cadence makes it so marvelous to read aloud. It is a classic. And when it landed here, it didn't scream classic to me, but it is. And that one, I was surprised by how marvelous it is. And it really grows on you the more you read it. It's a great book.
So before we wrap, can you describe your Kingfisher in one word? That's always hard. Home. Oh, that's good. Well, thank you, Meg, so much.
Absolutely.
I really enjoyed this conversation. I think I can talk to you forever. You need to get back to work.
You know where to find me.
Thank you so much.
You are so welcome.
Meg, thank you for reminding us that bookstores aren't just about books. They're about belonging. Kingfisher Bookstore is one of those places that holds stories in its shelves and in its walls, and because of you, it continues to be a space where curiosity, conversation, and community thrive. If you're listening and you haven't spent time wandering Kingfisher in Coupeville lately, consider this your invitation. Go in, ask a question, get a recommendation, and let yourself linger a little longer than you planned. Meg Olson, thank you for everything you've given to Whidbey Island, and thank you for being part of local Whidbey podcasts. The Oak Harbor Creative Arts Foundation is currently conducting a feasibility study in order to build a performing arts center and makerspace in Oak Harbor for the support of our artists of all kinds on Whidbey Island. From school-aged kids to professionals, these spaces will be the gather culture we need to strengthen connection. Join the movement to unify local artists and create a communal space for the creation and exhibition of all art forms by going to the Oak Harbor Creative Arts Foundation website and signing their petition to show support.